Welcome to Access to Anime. I'm Henshin Ikeda, and today I'm going to be reviewing and doing a full walkthrough of episode 1 of Codebreaker. Now, I saw this online and I had to review it. It looked good. It reminded me of Blue Exorcist meets Kazuma no Stigma. It's a slight comparison of what I thought it reminded me of. The main character is Sakura, from what I understand. But let me dig into this series, and I'll keep my ratings and main comments to the end of this review. We start off on a bus with a main character by the name of Sakura, and she's again on a bus alone just with the bus driver, and she witnesses something outside. She sees 4 to 6 people being burnt alive with a blue flame with a boy in the middle of this little circle. Now she obviously jumps off the bus and she goes to examine this a little closer. She gets a cop that's on a bicycle and tells the officer, "I've witnessed people being burnt alive." So he examines what's happened in the park and comes up with the assumption that she's probably crazy or off her rocker, and that homeless guys probably were out here making fires in the past and whatnot, and it must have been all up in her head. Now, we see the next day she's at school, and apparently she's an Aikido master, I think. I always pronounce this wrong. It's A-I-K-I-D. She's good with martial arts, and she's top of her game. You see her kicking each one of these guys' butts so she can protect herself. And anyways, after that, you get to see one of her friends. If I'm correct, it's Ayoba or Ayabi. She's big-breasted, so interesting to see more of her friends like that. But I digress. We see she's entering her classroom and there's a new transfer student. Now, wouldn't you know it, this guy looks exactly like the one she saw with the blue flame power, which is kind of interesting. And his name is Rei, Ogami Rei. He reminds you of the character from Kazuma no Stigma, Kazume, as well as the character from Blue Exorcist, hence the blue power. But anyways, she instantly thinks this guy is the same guy she saw last night, so she stalks him per se, checks him out in each class, and he appears to be normal, but he wears a glove on his hand, so he kind of sticks out. Again, we don't know a lot about this guy other than he's now back in, I guess, the country. He's no longer abroad, and his parents work overseas, I guess, so he's by himself, but he's had classes abroad, so he's been around a couple places. But anyways, we again see Sakura following this guy, and she eventually asks this guy outside so she can talk and find out more about him. And she instantly accuses him of where was he the other night. And apparently she had him all wrong. She asked to take the glove off because she thinks, are you hiding a scorch mark from the blue flames maybe? It turns out he's got a ring on his finger, but he keeps the black glove on his hand. Now, if I'm correct, this is the response he gives Sakura. It's a reminder of the person I hurt. Apparently, that was the excuse he gave. Also, I should mention, when she asks what does he do in his free time, or like the other day, he says he has a part-time job working for a sanitations company. You know, a guy that does garbage. Interesting. We also find out there's a strange woman that calls the main Rei on his phone, and it turns out to be a girl. Sounds like his secretary or something. And I guess this girl was checking up on Rei, saying, now that you're at the school and you know Sakura, what's your next move? And then Rei says, I'm gonna eliminate her. And you're like, wow, this guy's two-faced. But it was kind of odd. He looked like the same guy that did the whole flame bit, and now we see, he was nice as pie in school, and now he's doing a flip of the coin. So yeah, he is the guy that did the whole blue flames. He killed those guys. He's, in my opinion, a vigilante. But moving on, we see, I guess, Sakura. She's a little not herself, and you see her in a park because she's now okay with the idea that Rei isn't the guy she's after. I guess she kind of likes him to an extent, but we just don't see it yet. But anyway, she's walking back to that same park. She comes with the assumption that whoever this guy with the blue flames who kicked these guys' butts is probably going to come back. So she goes back. and, well, she sees Rei there. Well, not at first, but she introduces Rei to the dog. Now, this dog, his name is Dog, and apparently belonged to a homeless guy who ended up getting murdered, something along those lines, by a group called G Falcon. And it's kind of dramatic, really, because these guys called G Falcon, they all have tattoos on themselves. That's how you know they're, hence the Falcon. They have the tattoo Falcon on them. That's why they're called G Falcon. The police ignore them. Apparently they have like a foothold with the law, so they can't be touched. Everything's always changing. And it's weird because you see Rei pop out of nowhere, and Sakura, again, she believes he is not the same guy, so she's sold on the idea this is someone else. And he's saying like an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, because she's sharing with Sakura's sharing with Rei about the owner of the dog, like how he died, and Rei kept saying, you know, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, you know, some things we don't want to forget. It's kind of a little dramatic there, but it's kind of interesting. The dog doesn't like Sakura. The dog is scared of her, but when Rei goes down to pat the dog, it starts licking him. It's so nice. But that was the end of that. Now I'm gonna skip. I'm doing this a little out of order. I'm gonna skip to when she goes back to the park because she was feeding the dog. We see someone called the Minister, like on a separate cutscene. He looks like he's like the Prime Minister of the country or someone that's head of a legal department. And I'm guessing this is who Rei may or may not work for, but we don't know yet. Just a guy that's named Minister. Says something about like the operation or something going ahead with it along those lines. So I'm interested to see where that's going to go. But again, I'm off topic here. We're now back in the park. It's another little more down along the lines, and you see all these guys beating the crap out of a homeless guy in the park. And you're wondering, okay, nothing really new there. You know, they're just bums. But we find out, and this is kind of interesting, these are all G Falcon guys, and they basically are there to find out what happened to their friends, because their friends went missing 2 days ago with no word, and they're beating the crap out of this homeless guy to find out where their friends are at, regardless of if this homeless guy's going to die or not. Now Sakura comes to the rescue, and this is interesting because she like really kicks all these guys' butts, but before she kicks their butts, she asks, "You had friends that went missing?" Like, she opened her mouth and she's trying to confirm that she wasn't crazy, that people were here that day that were burnt to a crisp by that blue flames. Now these G Falcon guys have no idea what she's talking about, but the moment she opened her mouth, they assumed that she knew something they didn't know about their friends. So they started surrounding her, and they're about to beat the crap out of her, but she was pretty good. She kicked 12, 13, maybe 14 different guys' butts. I wasn't keeping track, but she's pretty good. You know, she's really fast. But a guy blindsided her with a stun gun, or, you know, a taser. So she became numb, and they beat the crap out of her. And that's not something I really want to see in a series. I mean, she didn't really look that arrogant. She looked like she could hold her own weight. So to see her get her butt kicked, and then a guy pull out his belt and tie her up, was kind of crossing the line. But that dog that she was friends with, although it never really liked her to that extent because she could never pet him, came to her rescue and bit one of the guys on the legs, and it was like, you know, like a knight in shining armor for the dog type of feel. But then we see these guys from G Falcon beat the crap out of the dog, and again, I'm a dog lover to an extent. I don't like seeing that, but you know, it gets worse. After she like somehow she kicks these guys away with her legs and saves the dog, like jumps in front, says, "Your beef's with me, not with the dog," and the dog finally starts licking her hand. But again, Sakura, she's binded. She has like a belt around her hands, and they're behind her back, so it's kind of weird. And well, this is the sad part. I'm gonna go real quick through this because this part really made me a little sad and also a little disturbed. You see Rei pop out of nowhere saying an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. You know, that same exact phrase he said before to Sakura. He looks at the dog, because the dog is now, he got back up and I guess tried to attack the guys again, and these guys are beating the crap out of the dog. He's looking at the dog, he's like, I can't believe you're still alive after all this. It's okay, I'll put you to rest, you know, type of a thing. That's what he says. He puts his hand on the dog's neck, chokes it, dies, and you're like, why would you do that? I understand, you know, this dog probably wasn't going to live anyways, and you're just putting it out of its miseries, but this was eating up Sakura. This was like, wow. She was like, what are you doing, Rei? Type of a thing. But anyways, Rei gets up, and he's got that really emotional look, like his head's down, like something like from Kazuma no Stigma. When you see Kazuma get all serious, he does the exact same thing. Tilts his head, eyes go a little dark, and then he gets all powered up. Well, you see Rei take his black glove off, say a few words, and he puts his hand on the, I believe it's the leader of this group's, either the leader or one of his lackeys' head, lights it up. And you're like, wow. I mean, at one part you're like, go Rei, this is what we wanted to see. But he's no knight in shining armor, because look what he did to the dog. It was like a mercy kill, but still. So you're kind of torn up if this guy's good or not. And then he ends up taking out the rest of this group. But before he takes him out, he's like, he gives them an ultimatum. He's like, either you guys can turn yourselves in, or I can kill you here. And they're like, they're just still going at him, I guess. And he has no choice but to kill him, very much. Now, the last scene we are, well, second to last scene we see is Sakura on her knees, and she now knows that Rei is the guy that she saw 2 days ago that killed killed these G-Falcon members, which now we know they are G-Falcon members that he killed. So he is a self-made vigilante as of now. This is what we see him as. We don't know who he works for, because there's also that. But anyways, he says something to Sakura, puts his hand, and all you see is Sakura, it looks like she's being burnt alive, and that's where it ends for her. We don't know if she's alive or dead, so I can't wait to see the next episode. But just before the episode ends, we see different members, like different people, like scattered throughout the city, I guess, and one of them appears to be from Rei's past, but we don't know who they are, their powers or names, how they tie into the story. So there's a lot to look forward to in this the next episode. That's all I can say. I'd like to see what's going to happen to Sakura. These are my afterthoughts. I'd like to see what's going to happen to Sakura. I want to know Rei's past, his history, you know, how to get this power, and what's up with the only one hand with the firepower there. The blue flames is kind of cool, but I'd like to know what's the name of this technique, and who is this minister guy we see, as well as who is the voice on the phone that calls him, that apparently he either works for or she works for him. Sounds like a secretary. So there's a lot to look forward to in this. I'm going to give this, I had a good feeling, I'm going to give it 4.5 out of 5. I'm not giving it a 5 out of 5 just yet because I don't know all the characters and I wasn't wowed, but I did get a good vibe from it. So I'm definitely going to keep reviewing this, and I'm going to see where it leads to, and I'm going to keep you guys up to date. But comment down below, subscribe above, thumbs up, thumbs down, let me know what you think, and comment. Check me out on Twitter, follow me if you want, and that generally ends it for my walkthrough and review. Well, that ends it for today. I've got one more clip coming up next, so stay tuned for that as well. I'll see you later, guys. And before I go, I gotta say it. You can't stop the access, but you can watch the feed. I'll see you later, guys.